Today on Wreath, we're going to be making the welcome home wreath for our vintage home for the holidays tree. Hey everybody, it's Teresa with wreathstickson.com, and I've got another ornament tutorial for our vintage 60s inspired home for the holidays tree. I was really trying to hone in on exactly what the theme of this tree was. And I thought, if you're coming home for the holidays, the first thing that greets you is a big welcoming front door. And so I even toyed around with the idea of making front door ornaments, but instead I did these. And I think that was a great decision overall. This allowed me to bring the doilies in that kind of hinted to that grandma feel I'm bringing around, but also just gave me a chance to really highlight what I'm trying to send, this message I'm trying to send with this tree. So let's take that step by step and I'll show you how to make it too. Paper doilies are exceptionally thin. So if this was going to be my background and it was going to last up for more than one Christmas, I needed to get serious about this. So what I did was I stacked up 6 of them and glued them together. And because it's paper and it can kind of warp and look funky on you, I just did the very outside edge. It's plenty to keep it together and make it strong, and then you don't have to worry about any weird misshapen paper. So once that was good and strong with 6 doilies all backed up together, I could set that aside and get to making the inside of my little doily wreath guy. So I found these tags at my craft store. And so the first thing I'm going to do is write a message on the front of it. So if you're using these as gift tags or something, you might write to and from and all of that, or just a little love you note. For my ornaments, this is where I'm really going to be selling the idea of home for the holidays, where I'm really going to be sending that message loud and clear. So I'm just going to be writing welcome home on it. And I'm always big about including your own handwriting, because even if you hate yours, your family will be sentimental about it and they will love to see it. So what I have here is an embossing pen. It writes with a little less than clear, like it's got a blue tint to it, but it'll dry clear. And so if you want that to be seen, you have to put embossing powder over the top of it. But it stays a little bit wet longer, exactly so you have time to do all this, which is sprinkling the embossing powder over the top. I have been doing this since I was seriously like 9 years old. This is one of my favorite things. So this here is a tray that has a funnel at the bottom. If you don't have one of these, you can just use a folded in half piece of paper, because you'll want to end up putting this back into the jar. Now we have to apply some heat to it. So I've got this heat gun. When I was a kid, I used to use an iron that was tipped over so the hot plate was up, and I just hold it over the hot iron. Maybe that's why I don't have feeling in my fingers anymore. See how cool that is? I just love embossing. So now you've got this like molten gold in your own handwriting. Oh, I just love it. Okay, so now around the edge, I want to put some chunky glitter. So this is the stuff I'm going to be using, and bring back my fancy tray here. Now, unfortunately, this will have to use glue, which takes a second to dry. The embossing, that's ready to go now. That's done. But glitter doesn't work quite the same way. So I'm just going to spread some glue here on the outside, all the way around. Well, I'll show you just this much. And then pour your glitter over the top of it. And I've got my little tray here, because same goes with that. You don't want to throw all that away. So I'm just going to keep going all the way around, and then I'm going to let this dry, covered in all of my gorgeous chunky glitter. So while this is drying, I want to move on to making this paper bow. You can find these actually at the craft store in different colors, but they're very easy to make, and I just loved this gold paper. So once you know how to make them, you can make them in any cardstock that you want, any paper that you want really, but cardstock works the best to get this super structured look. So first you need to make a pattern. So what I've got here is a piece of, this is my pattern paper. So it's just random paper that I pulled out. And this is cut 1 inch by 3.5 inches. And this is cut 1 inch by 3 inches. And this is purely because I wanted the bow to be about this width. I mean, you can do this with any measurements. So now I'm going to make this my pattern piece, this 3 inch wide, 1 inch tall strip. So the first thing I'm going to do is fold it in half, and then I'm going to snip right here just so that I have kind of my middles marked. So now from that, I'm going to go out maybe about 1/4 of an inch and make my curve from that point to this top point. And so that side and that side are identical. So now we need this side and this side to be identical. So I'm going to fold it again by folding on that little snip line that I made, like so. See, without that straight line, it's hard to fold that in half, and that's why those snips come in so handy. So you can fold it in half and then match that line so that the whole thing is sized exactly the same. Okay, so now this will become your bow shape where everything is matched evenly. So that is now your pattern piece. So we need to do the same thing for the tail. So again, I'm gonna fold it in half. And this time, instead of just like the little snip that's just for me, I'm actually marking where I'm gonna put the cut. So aiming for the middle, I'm gonna put, and you see I'm not even measuring this. I'm just kind of, I'll go right there. I just literally picked a spot. So with that middle point now marked, you can cut from that corner up to the middle, and then do the same on the other side. So now my tail pieces are cut, but I also want the center piece to kind of come down in the middle so that the whole thing looks like it's gathered together. So like we did with our bow pattern piece, I'm gonna fold this in half. And if you really wanna be specific, you could even fold it in half like in quarters, like so that you get the very middle point. I tend to just eyeball, but if you want your exact middle point, this is how you can get it. And then, whoops. And so since that's the middle, we can kind of cut, and you can decide how far down you want that line to go to. So yeah, I'm gonna stop it just about there. You want it to be about the same size as where your bow stops. So that looks good to me. Okay, so by doing that folded in half, of course, now they're both the same distance. So you just do like what you did with the tails, cut from the outer edge to that point. Okay, there we are. So those now are our pattern pieces. And you'll cut one of these out for every bow that you want, and 2 of these. The last piece you need is this piece that will get wrapped around your center. This is about 1/4 of an inch wide versus like 1 1/4 inches long. And I just kind of eyeballed this, you know, I just held my pieces like so and thought, how much do I need to wrap around it? And cut a piece to about that. So you'll need 1 of the little center pieces, 2 in this of your bows, and 1 of your tails. So that's what I've got going on over here now. So now we just need to assemble. There is a trick. If you're using cardstock, it is so heavy that if you try to just fold it around on itself, it'll just crease. And we want it to have that nice, gentle bow look. So you're gonna help it by taking a pencil or a pen or something and act like you're curling ribbon. You just kind of put a little pressure on it and pull through. And this pencil just kind of forces that paper to round around it as you go. And so it gets all of those fibers in the direction you want instead of fighting against you. So now that won't crease. You'll still have that just lovely, graceful little bend to it. So you do that with both of them. So now you just have to assemble this. A little bit of glue to hold each of those bow parts down. And then you can glue the bow pieces to each other and to the tail. Like that. I'm getting glue all over the place because I'm not letting anything dry. I recommend you let it dry. And then right here in the middle for our center, then bend those pieces to the back and glue down back here. Then just let this whole thing get good and dry. Now I've got all my pieces ready to assemble. I'm just gonna glue this right onto my stack of doilies here. And make sure I leave room at the top for my bow. So I'm gonna make it a little bit low. I decided I did not like having that hole right there. So I grabbed a couple pieces of felt and snipped them into little holly leaf shapes. If you don't feel like cutting them yourself, there's a million stickers you can buy that'll do the same thing. And so now I'm gonna glue my bow just right on the very top because it doesn't like to stick. There's a lot of different layers under here. So I'm gonna try to avoid the glitter so it'll get good and stuck down instead of just being perched right on top of it like that. And then I'm gonna take my holly and I'm gonna stick it right on top of that hole I don't like. So now this just has to dry before it's ready to go on the tree, but I am going to take a little piece of gold thread and stick it through, oops, stick it through this doily here. Okay. Just tie a little knot like that in the top. And now, as soon as all this glue is dry, it is ready to go hang on my tree. I just have to be patient enough to let the glue do its job. I admit this one was a little bit of a discovery process for me. I wasn't quite sure where I was going with it, but I really love where I ended up. And I think that there's so much to be gained from that process of experimentation and seeing what you get out of your head. It's part of what is so great about crafting. So I hope that this was inspiring to you, that you'll give it a try. If nothing else, this would be a fantastic gift tag to put on somebody's present. So if you make one, I would love to see it. Leave any comments if you've got any questions, and be sure and subscribe so you can see the whole finished project with this tree. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.